If any of you were not here last week, there's a homework assignment that we had on what we're going to be talking about today. So, were you guys here last week? Sorry, I don't remember. I remember yesterday. A lot of what happened yesterday. That's pretty much it. If somebody could just pass them to people that come in and just ask them if they've got not that one yet, but thank you. No, that one's right. That one's yeah. We're going to talk about communication in just a moment. Evidently, I don't have it down, so. I want to start off with the verse that we pretty much a guide for this class that I like to go back to when we're talking about conflict resolution. And I'll just read it, Colossians 3:12 through 14. So as those who have been chosen of God, holy and beloved, put on a heart of compassion, kindness, humility, gentleness, and patience, bearing with one another and forgiving each other. Whoever has a complaint against anyone, just as the Lord forgave you, so also should you. Beyond all these things, put on love, which is the perfect bond of unity. As we go through genograms and hurt loss timelines and all of that stuff, this is where I'm going. This is where I want to keep bringing us back to center. It's kind of easy to get caught up into the specifics of a genogram or a timeline and where are we going. And where we're going is this, so that we actually, as believers in marriage, that we're actually moving towards each other with kindness and compassion. Here's another verse that I think is really pretty great. You, my brothers, were called to be free, but do not use your freedom to indulge in the sinful nature. Rather, serve one another in love. The entire law is summed up in a single command: love your neighbor as yourself. If you keep on biting and devouring each other, watch out, or you will be destroyed by each other. And I think we go there in our relationships, and I just want to bring that to bear, at least to talk about, or at least mention that, and we'll come back to it. But serving one another in love is where we're going. Serving one another, understanding the genogram is just a tool to bring us to a place to see one another as we maybe have never understood them before. And then as the Colossians verse was saying, move towards compassion. It's very difficult to move towards compassion when I really don't know what's going on in you. If I just take it at face value, I can say you're irritable, or you're attacking me, or you're criticizing me. If I can understand more where that comes from, then I can move away from my judgment more towards compassion, and we'll get into that some. And so serving one another in love it sounds so simple, but it's, as you know, if you've been married longer than about 15 seconds, you know that serving one another in love, it can be difficult at times. Yet God is saying, love your neighbor as yourself. I think it's interesting that he takes the 10 commandments, takes it down to 2, and says, love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, and mind, and strength in one of the Gospels, and love your neighbor as yourself. And here he's saying in Galatians, it's all summed up in one: love your neighbor as yourself. And as we move towards our partners, to love them as we love ourselves, still laying down our lives, still not being a doormat. It's somewhere in there. I won't say it's exactly this, and here's the formula. I don't think it's quite that simple. It's going to require dependence on God, and it's going to require surrender. So I just want to kind of keep bringing us back to where we're really going, not what we're caught up in, because I think we can kind of lose and think, oh, this is a genogram class, or we're talking about this. We're moving on beyond this and using that as a tool to understand each other better. For those of you that did the homework, no condemnation for those that didn't, but we're going to ask you to go ahead and leave now, and with your head tucked down like in shame. But how many of you had a chance? I saw the napkin back here, so I know you guys. Just hold that up. You don't have to show them the details of it. This is something I've never seen before in my life. It's a genogram on a napkin, on a kitchen napkin. So that's impressive. Whatever's on it, we don't know, but the look, yeah, I'm sure. Did anyone else have a chance? Did anyone have a chance to do the genogram exercise? All right. Well, you guys are going to be on today. I really want to encourage, and if you're here not for the first time, but if you weren't here last week when I handed it out, or if you've just walked in, I've still got the homework assignment up here. Please take this. This is really for you. It's not for me. It'll help you. The couples that do this usually get a lot healthier and better. I remember a couple that was in a class years ago, and they came back after the assignment. They actually did their homework, but no, I'm just kidding. They came back after the assignment, and the wife said, this was so helpful for me, and I couldn't imagine where we were going. And she said, I thought Well, when I looked at my genogram and I saw that I do what my mother did, what my mother did, how my mother treated my husband, how my mother treated my father is how I'm treating my husband. And I hated the way my mother treated my father. And so I've been blaming him, my husband, all this time for something that I need to work on. So the genogram for them was life-changing. It changed the quality of their marriage. And so I wouldn't say everyone's going to have that sort of epiphany, but you might. And you might find things that are painful. A lot of people, I mean, some of the reasons that people don't do genograms, especially as a homework, I do it in my office in a counseling session. I just lock the door and we're going to do genograms. So we just start. I ask the questions, they give me the answers, I fill it out because I have certain places that I'd like to go. But since this is not a counseling session, it's a class, I'm sending it home as homework. But I would encourage you, I think a lot of people don't do it because it's kind of painful to go there. I mean, I realize some people have busy schedules and it just, maybe this was a crazy week for you, but a lot of people just don't really want to go there and remember what it was like when it was painful, or what it felt like when Dad left, or what it felt like when I saw them fighting, or what it felt like to see a parent come in drunk and what that felt like to us, or what it feels like to have been the least favorite in the family and knowing in your heart that you didn't matter. Those things are difficult for any of us to face. Yet until we begin to face the reality of what's happened, and again, I've made the distinction that I'm not talking about wallowing in the past. I don't want to go to the past and just go, this is who I am. I'm just a victim and I'm stuck with all this and I can, this is all I've got. That's not at all where I'm going. This is a resource to say, okay, this was what my influence was. What am I going to do about that? God, give me the grace to change this area of my life to be more like Christ. That's what this is for. Help me to understand. And then, so that's for yourself. What is in it for you? What's in it for your marriage is to begin to understand. So I'll take this couple for an example. So when she's griping at her husband, for him to understand this is a genogram attachment, or this is an attachment. She's emulating her mother. And that doesn't make it any better. It doesn't make me feel any better for it, but I can move towards compassion when I understand the why. And I can tell you story after story of counseling sessions where someone has come in and presented a problem, and there's an immediate, I won't say judgment, but you kind of sum people up pretty quickly. And then when you hear where they came from, I can very quickly move from a place of judgment to a place of compassion, very quickly. When I hear how they were treated by their uncle, in a manner that I don't even want to describe in here, I begin to understand why they're controlling. So they're not controlling because it's fun, they're controlling for survival. It's still not good, it still needs to be worked on, but instead of judging the person, man, you're really controlling, what's that all about? Always behind, I say always, it's too big a word, but usually behind control is fear. Fear leads to control. I'll show you a diagram sometime that helps me help clients and helps me help me. Fear leads to control. Control leads to controlling behaviors like griping, worrying, obsessing over things. Basically what we're doing, if I try to work it backwards, is when I see controlling behaviors in me, or if I see it in someone else, then I try to trace, for me at least, I can trace it back and go, okay, I'm worrying and obsessing or trying to get my way or trying to control. These are controlling behaviors. I've gotten pretty familiar with my flesh. That's why I think it's important that we flesh out the flesh, so to speak, not to glorify what the devil has done in our lives, but to understand, so this is what I do at my worst. I need to know that. I want to know that. I don't know if I need to or not, but when I recognize those behaviors, I go, that's my flesh. I know it now. I know what the flesh looks like. So going into denial of what my flesh is like, and I don't want to think about what happened with Uncle Billy or what happened in my home or I lost a brother. I don't want to think about that. It's too painful. Those very areas that the doors are kind of locked to, behind those areas a lot of times is healing or understanding. It gets worse before it gets better. You face reality. Reality stinks sometimes. Reality, quite frankly, stinks a lot of the time when you look at either how you were treated as a child or your perception of what people meant when they treated you a certain way. A lot of time, we'll get into that, some conditions. If you'd loved me, you'd have been there when this happened to me with Uncle Billy. And I don't have actually I did have an Uncle Billy, but he was a good guy. He was a fine Christian man singing in the choir, and he's been dead for years, so he's not listening. But but he was a good man. But in other words, when you're able to understand these things, you can move towards God and say, please heal this area of my life and help me to believe that what you say about me is true, not what I perceived or took out of that situation. And that begins a real life change. This isn't a power of positive thinking exercise. It's not ignore the bad and let's just think about the good things. You can do that and people that are optimists that way, that never look at the bad stuff, they live longer than anybody else because they never worry, because they don't know what's wrong with them. They won't even look at bad stuff. And I'm just encouraged, I don't know what y'all are doing, but I would assume you're all busy. But if you're avoiding this, I just would say there's something behind that door that might be important to go into. Now, I'm sorry?
There certainly is.
There usually is. I mean, I know for me, I went and did an EMDR therapy one time. And if you don't know what that is, I don't know what eye movement something. And I thought that's got to be the dorkiest thing I've ever heard of. You put these little tappy things in your hand, they go tap, 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 or a light goes back and forth, or you hear headphones go beep, beep, beep. And I thought that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. And I got to go check this out. So she said, well, bring a list of things that have really been traumatic in your life. And I had a pretty good list. And so I played along. And I really wanted some healing in those areas. It wasn't a joke. I just thought, if I'm gonna meet with people and say, this is a good idea, I'd like to know it for myself. I'd like to go ahead and find the man behind the curtain if it's a joke, the Wizard of Oz kind of mentality. But if this is real, maybe it works for me, maybe it doesn't, but at least I can say this is what it was like for me. And I have a lot of clients that have had traumas or hurts in the past that are still stuck with them. Is it a spiritual thing? Absolutely. But it's also in therapy, things really can happen. So when I went in, I won't go off on the details, but it was life-changing for me. It was surreal. It was unbelievable. And it did lose a lot of the power of what those sadnesses had over me even today. Even 30, 40 years later, it was life-changing for me. I had a lady come in, I'm just in an EMDR advertisement, I had a lady come in the other day that I'd met with, and I said, I think this would be worth a shot. You may waste a couple $100, but if it changes your life, maybe it changes your life. And she came back in, and I said, who are you, and what have you done with the lady that was here last week? It was that radical. And I said, if you told me you were her twin sister, I would have believed you. It was that radical. So all that to say, there are things that from the past, we're not stuck with what we've got. God is a healer. He may use counseling. He may use a EMDR therapy. He may use a medication. He may not. He may just use the power of the Holy Spirit in your life. I don't know what he's going to do. But the denial of what's back there, I just would encourage you to go. Now, I will say, as I've said before, if there's horrible abuse back there, don't do this at home by yourself. Go see a counselor, go to somebody that knows how to control that situation. If you start remembering things, I don't want you just to be at home going, what do? I want to, jump off a ledge kind of thing. So, yes. I still think we're 5 or 6 year old little kids in a grown up body with a lot of responsibilities, and most of us don't know what we're doing, or we're adults and we kind of know what we're doing, but something hurts and we go back. I'm not saying there's an inner child inside. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying we will go back, and having that compassion. That's great that you said that you can actually do that. It's either all about me and how I've been wronged and my arrogance and my pride of needing to be right, and you need to change because you're broken. It's either some of that, or you go to where you've gone, which was understanding that when he was younger things happened, and that's what's behind this. And that's an awesome thing to realize. Most people don't want to get there. They really just want you to get well, go get healed, and come back, because why am I messing with this junk that you went through? And we've all got junk that we went through, and so we're all dealing with each other's stuff. So I appreciate you saying that. That's very good. Anyone else? Anything from the homework assignment, especially those of you, that one couple that did it? Yes, you have a question. That's great. That's good. That helps me, because if I can get better at this and do this for the next time I teach this, that would be wonderful. So, and I would encourage you, now that you've had a whole week of not doing it, and those of you here that weren't here last week, please do it for your sake. Please do it. And what I'd like to hear from you guys that did it, and for those of you that process through, I don't want to hear the dirty laundry, because I don't think that's anybody's business but y'all's. But I would like to know were there themes that you found? Were there, like, did you notice behavioral patterns from your family, whether it was anger or the way they medicated when they were upset, whether it was drinking or leaving or affairs or, I mean, I don't want to know the details. I just want to know, did you see patterns, and what are some of the bold, on the highest level, what did you notice? That's great. That's a great insight. I really think so. Again, the insight, I will even let a client leave troubled and confused. In fact, that's probably the best way to leave a counseling session, because it's like your mind is solving and wondering. So it doesn't bother me if somebody leaves going, I don't know, I can't, this has upset me or whatever. I don't panic, because I know work is happening now. And when they come in, almost every time, when they come in the next week, they go, I got it, or I'm closer, or this, or I got this out of that, and I had to work through why I was so upset or angry or whatever. So that's a great thing. So at least it's an awareness that you're in, so that as you go forward, so that if, where it might even work for you guys or any of you guys, is if he says, you know, this reminds me, I'm feeling really insignificant to you right now. And I realize this is from when I felt insignificant, and I don't know your past, so I'm not talking about you, but when I was insignificant as a 5-year-old, or thought I was, this is taking me back. I'm real sensitive to that. And so that actually, in your communication, if a person can be so vulnerable as to say, I know where this is coming from. I've got some work to do. Please forgive me. I can tell you story after story of just conversations or arguments Teresa and I have been through where we've come to that realization, and then we get together in the mornings for coffee, and I go, I get it. First of all, I'm sorry for what I said, because I know that was hurtful. I thought you were the enemy. And I realized my fear of abandonment or betrayal is what was fueling me, and that's not my excuse. That's my junk, and I'm sorry my junk got all over you. Even if it's just that is so healing in a relationship, instead of, well, I'm right and you're wrong, or you're so unhealthy, why don't you go get a counselor and get fixed? You know, and you're thinking, well, why don't you go get counseling and get fixed? You know, but that's typically what happens. So if you're moving towards even some insight and understanding, if you then can move, and when we get into communication, we're going to talk about vulnerability. So if you can be honest, and it's harder for men, maybe I say obviously, I think it's obviously harder for men to express what they feel, because men are taught stuff your emotions. Most men, not all men. You know, don't cry, wipe off that tear, boy, grow up, be a man. That's a lot of what we hear growing up, a lot of us. And so for a man to be able to say, I'm struggling with, I'm blaming you for what has happened in my life, and I need to do some work on that. Even that will give your spouse so much hope, that you're not just going, this is always your fault, you always do this, you. It changes to, I've got some work to do. I'm struggling with abandonment, and I've got to go spend some time with God and reconcile this. And so that vulnerability, when you can really be that honest, and if you can provide a safe place, or either of y'all, if one person can provide a safe place for the other person to be that honest, then you're gonna build an intimacy in your marriage that you've never seen before. I promise. It's unbelievable to be known that deeply and still loved and accepted. I can't describe it other than, please go there. And if you're there, welcome and congratulations. I hope to get further there. And that's one of the greatest things I love about my marriage, is our conflict leads to intimacy. Almost, and I'm not talking about let's run to the bedroom kind. I'm just saying intimacy of being known, and trust is built. I matter to this person. When I say I'm struggling with abandonment or betrayal or whatever, instead of, well, that's stupid. God, you get over yourself, grow up, and that's what a lot of, because men, when we hear that from women, we don't know how to fix that. We can fix the window, we can change your oil, but we cannot fix your feelings. And for most men, we are undone when y'all tell us you're scared or hurt or sad. We don't know what to do. We just are going, okay, I got to fix that, or I'm not the man. I'm not protecting well, and you can't fix that. You can move towards that. And that is the healthiest thing. That we'll get in, as we get into partner validation. Trying to fix their mood is the worst thing you can do. If somebody, it's like going to a funeral saying it's going to be okay. for the love of people, just keep it. If you're going to go to a funeral and you don't know what to say, just shut up. Just go and be. And you've spoken volumes of I care enough to be here. But to take lemons and make a lemonade kind of mentality is like pouring lemon juice in a cut. It's just the wrong direction. So if one of you guys is emotionally hijacked or angry or upset, trying to have logic and trying to fix that problem in that moment is about the dumbest thing any of us can do. And I've learned that the hard way, and I've done it right and I've done it wrong. I still do it right and do it wrong. I mean, we're just human. I'm just another guy that's trying to help you guys see, here's something that works for me and a lot of other people. I hope it works for you. If not, talk to me and we'll tweak it some. Maybe it'll work better. But when we share our feelings, so if we know Genogram information and someone shares their feelings, if you can provide a safe place for them to be them, and know that they're safe, you've conquered it. You're on the way to the greatest relationship you've ever had, where you can be, where your faults are now known, and we're not going, I'll blame it on your daddy, or if he wasn't such a whatever, you wouldn't be this way. Don't go there. That is way too hurtful for someone to talk about somebody else's parents. It's like you can talk about your kid all you want, but somebody else tells you your kid's a certain way, horns come out of I've seen women, grow fangs, when they hear that kind of stuff. Their heads spin around. It's crazy stuff. But I can talk about my kids all day long. Just don't you talk about my kids. So don't be attacking each other. Try to understand. Just go, what is it like to go, what could be going on in this person? And you'll begin to, if you're even asking yourself the question, I wonder what's behind this. That's the beginning of trying to understand. Then at least you're not going, I'm being wronged, I'm this, and I. You're going, I wonder what he must be going through. This is an unusual response to that question of, how's your day going? What you doing today? I mean, when you see, I've heard a phrase that says, when somebody's overreacting, they've gone home. When you see an overreaction, they've gone home. And so you either go get over it and come back when you're better, or you go home with them. And you say, I'm so sorry. That must have been horrible. I can tell you this morning, I won't get too many slides today, I can tell you, but this morning my wife and I had a conversation. And she sang at a Hill Ministries fundraiser last night, and I think she's phenomenal. And I tell her that all the time, and she doesn't believe it. And when she was a kid, she was kind of an invisible child. And so so from a Genogram standpoint, understand the importance. And this happened in my kitchen this morning. And I said, you were so awesome last night. And she says, I can't believe that. She thinks she's not. And whether you think she is or not, it's not what I'm talking about. I'm just saying, I think she's awesome. If I can listen to worship music in the morning, I put on her CD. And because I love her, I love the music, and quite frankly, I think it's a great CD. When we had this conversation, she goes, I just can't believe that you mean it. I figured you're just telling me that so I'll feel better. And I said, and so I was later this morning than ever, and I don't care. I mean, it's good to see y'all this morning, but I'd have stayed there if I had to. Because what she was struggling with was family of origin. She said, what it started with, she said, what are you teaching today? And I said, well, we're gonna stay on Genograms for a while. She goes, I'm so glad. And I thought, that's a weird response. I'm so glad. I thought you'd be going, can't you move on a little quicker than that and get to the next stuff? And I said, why? And then she began to weep. And so we talked for about 20 minutes, and I just told her the truth. And I was in the music business for years, so I think I know what great is. And I mean, when I met my wife, before I fell in love with my wife, I thought she was great, and I asked her, can I please have one of your CDs? So maybe that helps her know it wasn't, I'm not telling you this because you're my wife. I actually believe this. So even then, and she started sharing, this happened as a child. I was invisible. I didn't matter. Then as an adult, she moved to Nashville. She was a writer for a company and doing very well. And one lady, I won't say her name, she went to talk to her and said, will you represent me? And the lady went and saw her sing and said something. The lady came out of, you'll know who this is when I say this, but she came out of she came out of the business world and had just gotten into music because a family member was in music and she wanted to be in music. So she had no experience. She had no ear. She probably couldn't sing her way out of a bucket or hear a good voice from a bad voice. And she told my wife, I don't know where I could book you. I'm sorry. And that's part of her Genogram. That wasn't her family of origin. That was just a significant person that spoke into her life. So that that accentuated the invisibleness that she felt as a 6-year-old, and then as an adult being what she felt was rejected and turned down. And so it doesn't matter what I tell her, she doesn't. She's trying to learn to believe it. She says, I'm trying hard to hear the truth, that you mean what you're saying. So anyway, so that's how powerful a genogram is I needed to know that from her. Otherwise, I'm going, why can't you take a compliment? What's wrong with you that I can tell you how great I think you are? I make it about me. What am I, a liar? Do you really think I'm a liar? I mean, do you think I just don't know what I'm doing? I mean, so I go to me, which is the wrong direction. This morning, I told her this morning, I said, I knew this. She says, it goes back to a feeling of worthlessness. I said, I've known that since I've known you, and I love you anyway. But if I didn't know that, I couldn't have gone there and been compassionate and empathetic and nurtured her. And so for the sake of your marriage, do this work, because you will be able to do this, but you can't do it if you don't know it's there. So the more honest you are and the more safe you make it for the guy or the girl or the whatever to be broken and to have a horrible past, that when you think about it, you're going, well, why would that affect you that? Why would you listen to somebody that's never been in the music business and let them have that much power over you? I've just wasted my words. I have just said what you're feeling is ridiculous, which means you're ridiculous, which means you're as worthless as you think you are. And I did. And I said, do you want to know the truth? And she said, yeah. And I told her the truth, and I said, I don't expect you to believe this every time I say it, but if you think I'm going to stop saying it just because you don't believe it, forget it. I'm going to tell you you're beautiful every day, every time I think about it, because you are. And I said, and when I hear you sing, I think you're amazing. And if I forget to tell you, it's not because I don't think it. I want to tell you. So absolutely, I want her to know the truth. But I can't. But if I look at it like that should do it, you should not listen to that lady, and you shouldn't have listened to that. I'm way off. I'm now telling her how she should feel, instead of moving toward. So then she feels more. If I say, why do you give so much power to someone that doesn't know what they're doing? And even if they did know what they're doing, why would you give them that much power? What I've just done is alienate myself from my wife, and now she's more alone than she was when she opened her mouth. And so that's what we do so horribly in marriages, all of us, is we don't know how to, I don't know, I want to fix this. I mean, I want her to never deal with that again. And I can't do that. I'm not God. God can work in her life and can change. I mean, my prayer for me and other people is that our past won't have the power over us that it does, that my past won't define who I believe I am, that I will believe that you love me, God, and that you do see me as you see Christ, that I'm in Christ. Help me believe, help me my unbelief. It's a daily process for me. Well, I think that the protective mode is very normal. I mean, you don't want him to hurt from that or deal with that. It's just what we're moving into is fixing. I want to fix your feelings right now. You're feeling sad. I don't want you to have to feel sad. I love you. I care about you. I want you to feel happy. And that's the wrong direction. I mean, it's good to want that, but what a person needs when they're sharing that is not here. That's all junk. This is the truth. This should make you feel better, because I'm not saying you're uncomfortable with it. You don't like what he's heard, but you're not going to ever fix that. I'm not saying he can't get healthier. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying letting him be him and dealing with this, but you're there with him. I love you, I'm with you, and we'll get through this together. You're so valuable to me. Yeah, it's just not, there's no fixing people. You're not going to fix each other. And we all come up with the list after we married a while of, oh, here's some things I didn't know about you. How do I fix that? I got to, let's get you in some counseling, let's get you in some whatever. But you're not going to fix me. You're never going to fix me. God is going to change my heart. The spiritual journey that I'm on is on His time frame, not yours and not mine. I can't change me either. I can move towards Him. I can go towards spiritual disciplines of spending time in the Word, spending time praying, being obedient, asking God to give me the grace to be obedient, or to spend time in the Word. That's where I'm going to change, but that's my journey. And so I hear your frustration. It is so frustrating to see someone hurt that you don't want to hurt. But what depressed or sad or bummed out people want to know that they're not alone and that they matter and you're with them. If that's all they know, yeah, and then I think that's a great point. Even though you do it, doesn't mean they're going to receive it or want to receive it. Or it's like giving somebody a gift or thanking them with, you send them something, they don't want that. That's not how you love me. That's not what I need right now. And so communicating, what do you need? And maybe you need to be alone. Either all about me, let me show you how I want you to want me to love you. That's nuts. I mean, that's just selfish is what that is. Or tell me what you need and then resist the urge to be me, to do it the way I want to do it and do it the way that says I love you to you. So, well, y'all have been great. I'm going to stick to my word and end on time. I've got a lot more slides, but I really want to encourage you, if you don't have the Genogram homework, it's up here on the front desk. There's another assignment I wanted to do for next week, but I'm going to hold off and describe it a little bit next week, and we'll stay on Genograms a little bit longer. So let me close this with a word of prayer. Father, this is so complicated, and yet to you it's so simple, and it really will boil down to us just trusting you and surrendering to you. But yet, in our flesh, Lord, we're broken, and I'm so grateful that you know that, and that you have empathy and compassion for us, and that you understand what we're going for, and that you care about these things that we're confused about. Thank you for loving us. I pray for every marriage that's represented in this room, Lord, that you will continue to work on each of them individually as you draw them towards you to be more and more dependent on you and less defined and dependent on their past. I pray that for me, and I pray that for my wife and my children. So thank you for loving us. Keep us safe as we go from here, Lord, and I pray this in Jesus' name.